What's going on, people? How we feeling on a Thursday? We got the Bama Elite Podcast Touchdown. Alabama Magazine rocking and rolling right here with the two baddest men right here. We got my man Justin Smith, the lead scout and recruiting analyst for TDA. Brother's already on the way to work right now to cover the Pike Road versus Carver High School game featuring two of Alabama's top commitments, Quay Russaw and James Smith. So Justin already on the road, getting down to business. I'm yours truly, Stephen M. Smith of TDA. Happy for you guys to join the Bama Elite. And as always, before we get to the conversation, if you can't catch the Bama Elite on Thursdays and Sundays, so we encourage you to check out the Big Game College Football Podcast Network and audio stream for the best college football coverage in the South. So if you can't catch us here, the Bama Elite, you got to check out the Big Game College Football Podcast Network and audio stream for all of the action right there. But Justin, man, how you feeling? You on the road doing big work on the recruiting game, but how you feeling right now?
I'm feeling good, Steven. Always good to be on with you on the Bama Elite, as always. Ready to dive into this Mississippi State matchup. I think a lot of talk this week has been on Tennessee, deservedly so, what they did against Alabama last Saturday. I think a lot of Alabama fans are ready to turn a page and look at Mississippi State. And I'm headed to see two five-star prospects and Quay Russaw, James Smith, two of Crimson Tide's top targets in the 2023 recruiting class. I'm getting an update on the recruitment and getting an opportunity to see them in action again. I know Crimson Tide fans won't. Defensive lineman who can get after the quarterback, and I think James Smith is one of those guys. So getting an opportunity to catch up with him.
Absolutely. So, Justin, you mentioned the main thing right there is trying to shake back from a loss to Tennessee, dropping that game 52-49. The Vols taking that victory there, getting its first win over Coach Saban in Alabama in 15, 16 years, getting that first victory cigar. But you turn the page. You turn the page. You take on a state team that in its third year under Mike Leach, they're greatly improved. They got a quarterback in Will Rogers who a lot like Hendon Hooker, probably not the athlete that Hendon Hooker is, but Will Rogers can sling the football. He's completing 71.3%. He's got 23 touchdowns, just 4 picks. Now, Mississippi State runs the ball more now under Mike Leach than what I've ever seen Leach run the football, especially during his time at Texas Tech. He didn't do it much at all. Washington State didn't do it much at all. But it looks like Leach is starting to adapt more to having a bit more of a run game. But this matchup here, Justin, I mean, after seeing the pass rush get absolutely nowhere against Tennessee, that group has got to come to life here at home in Bryant-Denny at night, homecoming. The pass rush has got to come with it, man.
Yeah, I think the pass rush is going to be very important. You said Mississippi State is a little bit more balanced than they have been in the past under Mike Leach, but just looking at Will Rogers' stats, I think over the last 7 games, 6 of those last 7 games, he has thrown the football more than 40 times. So he's definitely still passed the football around quite a bit. In that time, only throwing 4 interceptions. I think that is a very good ratio, has all of those touchdowns already. So the Crimson Tide's secondary will be tested again by a team who really likes to throw the football around. I think it is going to be important that they get pressure on the quarterback, because LSU had a lot of success against Mississippi State getting to Rogers, and that helped them defeat the Mississippi State Bulldogs, similar to Hendon Hooker, similar to any quarterback. You just let them sit back there in the pocket, rushing only 3 like last game, yeah, they're probably going to pick you apart. So I think this is a great game for Alabama to have some redemption for their season, have some redemption when it comes to that pass rush. The secondary is going to get tested again. You're going to go up against the SEC's leading passer, so you get an opportunity to redeem yourself in this matchup. So I think this is going to be another huge test for Alabama's defense. I'm interested in seeing how Alabama, Nick Saban, Pete Golding draws up things in terms of getting pressure on Will Rogers.
Absolutely, Justin. We're already seeing some comments here in the chat line. You guys lighting this up right now on the Bama Elite. One of those comments came from Jared Jackboy, who wrote in. Jared Jackboy writes in here asking me, do I think Alabama can bounce back? I think the Tide can, but it starts off with, like you mentioned, Justin, getting that pass rush. Number one, Pete Golding last week dropped Dallas Turner in coverage, dropped Chris Braswell in coverage. And a lot of us wonder, okay, why did he do that? You let those guys hunt. You let them get after the quarterback along with Will Anderson, especially when these opposing offensive linemen, they can chip Will Anderson, they can double team him, triple team him, use a tight end, whatever they want to do. But this has got to be a game where you let these young men come after the quarterback, whether it's Dallas Turner, whether it's Chris Braswell, whether it's Byron Young, the interior passers on the defensive line, they've got to collapse the pocket there on Will Rogers. But definitely, you got to let the guys like Braswell and Turner hunt and go after the quarterback instead of just trying to drop those guys in coverage.
Yeah, I thought it was a pretty interesting game plan. Sort of understand it because the secondary needed some help that you can say, but just watching that game, I think Tennessee was hurting them more down the field. And if you're throwing the football down the field, your quarterback needs more time to develop, to help his wide receiver develop routes. So I thought getting more pressure on them probably, I guess, take some and play. But I thought that would have made a little bit more sense to take that chance to put more pressure on them than drop back Dallas Turner. It's basically protecting the flat. This is what it was looking like those outside linebackers were doing. And I don't remember a time where Tennessee really went underneath a lot against Alabama in terms of them switching to that particular game plan. So, yeah, I'm interested in seeing how they will defend Mississippi State. I expect them to try to put as much pressure on Will Rogers as possible. Going back to when they played Mississippi State last year, Will Anderson had a huge game. He finished that game with 4 sacks, so hopefully he can tap into that, get frustrated, angry, and go after Rogers like he went after him last season. I think going back to that game, Rogers had to go out the game for a little bit because Will Anderson was basically getting to him almost every play. So I think Alabama dialing up the pressure is going to be very important.
So, Justin, earlier this week, and I'm referring to Monday, Coach Saban hinted to this twice: personnel changes. And normally, when he says stuff like this, fans go, "Well, when is it going to happen? We've been hearing it, but when is it going to actually take root and come into fruition?" So, there's been a lot of talk about should Jalen Moody replace Henry To'o at middle linebacker. There's been conversation about can we see more of the young guys of a defensive line off the bench get on the field. There's been conversation about do you take DeMarco Helms off of safety, move him down the box, and put a Brian Branch or Terrion Arnold or Malachi Moore at safety. I mean, the biggest conversation is you got Eli Ricks out of the transfer portal for a reason. 6'2", 6'3", athletic, rangy corner. We saw him be a shutdown guy his freshman year at LSU. When does this young man get on the field and not just ride the pine there? So, do you see the personnel changes being made this week against State? And if you do, Justin, what positions do you think those changes come in?
Yeah, it's hard to say because you will have to change Alabama's defense on the back end in terms of their more experienced players. DeMarco Helms and Jordan Battle, those two guys along with the two plays that Malachi gave up. Brian Branch typically starts in that position, and Malachi Moore gets some looks here and there. So I think the changes will have to be made on the back end at that safety position. Looking at a guy like Helms who did not have the best game against Tennessee. And if I'm not mistaken, I think guys like Christian Story are behind them on the depth chart. Eli Ricks is a cornerback. I'm not sure if the Crimson Tide would like him at the safety position. I know a lot of people are saying, why is Eli Ricks on the sideline when DeMarco Helms is getting ran by? But I think the thing that may be keeping him out of that position to be a more versatile defensive back is the fact, is he going to be able to tackle from that safety position? Because if you are safety, you're definitely going to have to be able to make some tackles. Cornerbacks as well, but I think safeties are typically a little bit of better tacklers than safety than cornerbacks are. So in terms of changing things on the back end, you would definitely have to go after your more experienced guys who did not have the best game. But Nick Saban said nobody is entitled to a position. So I'm going to look and see if that came to fruition, if they wanted to try out some of those younger guys who we haven't seen as much at that safety position. Guys like Devontae Smith, Christian Story, some younger guys, get them in the mix. Get guys like DeMarco Helms, I guess, on guard that I am not just talking that your spot can be taken and that you're not entitled to a position. We're putting guys on the field and allowing them to have an opportunity to make some plays.
Absolutely. Folks, as always, you got to check out the Big Game College Football Podcast Network and audio stream for the best college football coverage in the South. If you can't get to us here, the Bama Elite Touchdown Alabama magazine every Thursday and Sunday, you check out the Big Game College Football Podcast Network and audio stream for that coverage. But Justin, speaking of, nobody's position is safe. Nobody's entitled to a position. You look at the incident that took place with Jermaine Burton going back to the Tennessee game. After the game, fans stormed the field, cigars going crazy, and there's video out there of Burton allegedly pushing, shoving, a fan uh, on the field there. And of course, Coach Saban issued his statement that we're gathering the information, we're gathering the evidence, and we're handling this internally. That's what Saban always is able to say. But with this happening with Burton, we've got the conversation of Tyler Harrell, who not only is practicing, but what I've been told, he's actually finally being implemented into formations, schemes, looks, strategies. He's being implemented into the game plan. Coach Saban said that Harrell was actually available for Tennessee. They didn't put him out there, but he was available for the Tennessee game. He's playing with more confidence. He's gotten more comfortable within this set and the scheme here. I know people have been looking at Tyler Harrell as kind of an urban myth, but what happened there with Jermaine Burton, it looks like maybe finally the urban myth takes the field. Just how you feel about that?
Yeah, yeah. I think all of our eyes has been on Tyler Harrell, see if he can come in and make an impact for the Crimson Tide. Like you said, going back to the Burton situation, of course, you are a player. We all know, like Nick Saban said, it is a difficult circumstance. You probably don't even put in a game plan to say, yo, if their fans rush the field, this is what we do. I think that is an interesting thing to discuss. Do Alabama fans and not Alabama fans, Alabama players and teams like Alabama who go on the road, and if they get beat, their fans may run on the field. I wonder, is there a game plan for what their players are supposed to do? But I know their players are not supposed to hit anyone. Unfortunately, that is the situation Jermaine Burton found himself in. So yeah, I am wondering if the Crimson Tide will we have an opportunity to work Tyler Harrell in finally. We have known that he has been battling some injuries. We've seen him in pregame warm-ups look pretty good, look decent at practice, moving around. You always wonder if his injury, how far along he is in terms of his injury. So I think the Crimson Tide could definitely use a guy with a lot of speed who can get down the field. Because to be honest, we've talked about Alabama lacking a number one wide receiver, but a lot of these guys have not made plays down the football field. Alabama's wide receivers have not been able to stretch the field at all. I don't think there's been a lot of plays. I think Isaiah Bunn has been their best option, but of course he's a freshman. He's a younger guy, so I think having a guy back like Tyler Harrell, possibly getting him back into the game plan, could really help Alabama's wide receiver group, who I feel is struggling to find a number one guy. He has been wide receiver by committee, which could work for the Crimson Tide, but having more established guys they know they can have confidence in, will be very beneficial for them moving forward. Tyler Harrell could be that guy, so yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do in his first possible game action in Alabama uniform.
We got a thought here coming from Darren Watson here, Justin. So Darren writing in, O'Brien needs to be extremely aggressive Saturday, and he's asking me for my thoughts. Extremely aggressive. I think O'Brien needs to be more creative. Absolutely, I think he needs to be more creative in a sense of. Have you noticed, Justin, when Bryce Young is out there, he's working so hard for everything. It's like he throws for 300 yards, but he's like he's grinding at the mill for those 300 yards. He's running for his life. He's getting hit everywhere he goes. And it's like so tough for him versus when you had these Steve Sarkisians and the Lane Kiffins, the quarterbacks, it was easy to get to those 300 plus passing yards because you had those screen passes, you had those pop passes, you had those matchups, you had different ways to isolate your best player on what you perceived as the opposition's worst player. So Sarkisian and Kiffin found ways to do this with ease. With Bill O'Brien, it seems like Bryce Young is working so hard to get everything and find everything that he needs to find out there on the field. So the question is, does Bill O'Brien need to be more aggressive? But could you use aggressive and creative in the same way there, Justin? Could you do that?
Yeah, I think in terms of his play calling, I think it does leave some things to be desired. I know a lot of people are talking against some of the things that he do, especially those screenplays. I don't think a screenplay has worked on this year for the Crimson Tide. So yeah, I think calling on him to be a little bit more creative with his playmakers because he does have a lot of speed on his offense. I think that is something that is known. I think a lot of people talk about how Nick Saban is consistently going after speedy wide receivers. So I think he has the playmakers. So getting them the football, I guess, in a little bit of easier way to help Bryce Young, I think that would be definitely beneficial to the reigning Heisman Trophy winner.
Oh, absolutely. And the defense, Justin, has got to be aggressive this week and get into Will Rogers, creating some sacks, some negative plays, affecting him in the pocket, and get a couple of turnovers or two. Get a few turnovers or so in this matchup here against Mississippi State here as we're waiting for my man Justin to get back on screen there, having some issue, having some. We're waiting on Justin to get back on screen, but like I mentioned, guys, you got to check out that Big Game College Football Podcast Network and audio stream to get the best college football coverage in the South. If you can't catch us here, the Bama Elite every Thursday and Sunday, check out Big Game College Football Podcast Network and audio stream there. People, continue to drop your score predictions in the chat line right here. Also, your offensive and defensive players of the game. We got a few fans here. Justin, as Justin's back now with their score positions. Jim McEwen writes in 48-34 Bama. That's his score prediction, 48-34. We got Jarvis S. who writes in 42-21 Bama. Jarvis S. We appreciate that. We got Diane Fiskey Foy writes in 52-28 in favor of the Crimson Tide. So we got some score predictions rolling in here for Alabama taking on Mississippi State on Saturday. Excuse me, homecoming at Bryant Denny. But got to get the turnovers. Go after the quarterback in this game. And Justin, so the question I want to ask you, here's the big question here: is can Alabama, even with what happened against Tennessee, can it right this ship, run the table in the SEC West? Because you still got, after this game, you got LSU, you got Ole Miss, you got Auburn. Can it right this ship, get the defense back right, run this table to the SEC championship, and get into the college football playoff? Because normally after a loss, people go like the sky is falling. But do you feel like Bama can right this ship and run this table starting against this Mississippi State team?
Yeah, I think you have to say they can. I think this has been the nature of college football since the college football playoff has started. I think Alabama has been in this position several times since the college football playoffs has become a thing. So I think this is just the nature of college football. You can lose a game, best to lose a game a little bit early on for Alabama. I think losing to Tennessee was actually one of the best games for them to lose because, of course, Tennessee is not in their division in the SEC. You win out, win your division. You still have everything in front of you. Win out, represent your part of the SEC in the SEC championship game. Hopefully, you'll have an opportunity to possibly have a rematch with Tennessee, and I think pretty sure that would be a nice matchup. Pretty sure that's a game Alabama fans would be looking forward to, or possibly getting some revenge on Georgia. So I think the Crimson Tide's coaching staff, Will Anderson, talked about it earlier in the week after the game Saturday. Guys were talking about we've been there before. We've been in this situation before. Going back to last season, of course, we lost to Texas A&M. People probably calling them off on that after that last year. So I think they've been in this position. The coaching staff, the players on Will Anderson, I think as a leader, some of those guys in that leadership role are going to definitely have to step up and they know that hey, there's no mishaps going forward. We don't have any room to make anything bad happen in terms of losing a game moving forward. So every game is going to be important. It was important in the past, of course, but you got a loss now. You can't have any more mishaps. So I think the biggest thing is going to be on Alabama's leaders.
Justin, speaking on the leadership right there, got to step up for the Tide. My apologies there on one of our listeners' names. It's Diane Fisk Foy who wrote in that score prediction. Diane Fisk Foy there. But for those of you wondering where Justin is off to, he's actually headed to the Carver matchup against Pike Road High School, looking at two of Alabama's top commits for the 2023 class, two 5 stars, James Smith of a defensive lineman and Quay Rusall, the linebacker. So that's where Justin is on his way to Montgomery to check out Carver High School versus Pike Road High School right there. But get into a thought here, Justin, from Coach Hood, and he's diving to the coaches. Coach Hood, a former defensive coordinator himself, and he talks about the defense takes on the energy and the mentality of the defensive coordinator. And I would agree with that. You look at Alabama, guys took on the mentality of Kirby Smart. Guys took on the mentality of Jeremy Pruitt. Pete Golding fancies himself as somewhat of a teacher because he likes to put the information on these guys. But I mean, Justin, when you look at Pete Golding, there are times when you truly wonder, do these players really take on his mentality? Is he a guy that's going to get in your face, chew you out, be on your tail, and demand excellence and demand the best from you? And there are a lot of moments where you kind of look at Coach Golden and you ask yourself, does he demand the best out of these players? I know the best teams in Alabama football history, of course, under Coach Saban, the players police themselves. I get that. But does Pete Golden really demand and push the best out of these players, in your opinion?
Well, I think Coach Hood definitely brought up a great topic of discussion. I think defensive coordinators and their mentality, their mannerisms. Just looking at defensive coordinators throughout college football, those guys are a little bit different on the sideline, really animated. Going back to the past, Kirby Smart, he was really, really animated as Alabama's defensive coordinator. So you really saw that. I don't feel Pete Golding is a big rah-rah guy. Just looking at what I've seen from him from the outside looking in, he doesn't appear to be that type of guy. We've seen other defensive coordinators seem to give out that type of vibe. Brent Venables, who comes to my mind, the former Clemson defensive coordinator who was the Oklahoma head coach, was a pretty good defensive coordinator for the Tigers. So yeah, he's definitely right. The mentality that the defense takes definitely plays a large role, and it comes from their coach in a lot of ways. So yeah, I think that is something worth discussing in terms of how Alabama's defense is responding to Pete Golding. In my opinion, yeah, I don't think he's a big rah-rah guy. Of course, you don't have to be. But yeah, I guess you can bring up that if you wanted to talk about how that plays a role in Alabama's defense is playing in terms of their intensity. But yeah, I definitely feel defensive coordinators play a huge role in that.
Appreciate all the fans checking us out right now on the Bama Elite podcast, Touchdown Alabama Magazine. If you haven't done so, go ahead and hit that like button right there. Hit that like button. Make this your podcast right here, talking Crimson Tide football with Justin Smith and yours truly, Stephen M. Smith of TDA. Justin on the road right now, on the grind as the lead scout and recruiting analyst for TDA. He's checking out Carver High School versus Pike Road High School. James Smith, Quay Rusall, two of the top targets for Alabama in the 2023 class, both 5 stars. Guys, fans, continue to get your score predictions here in the YouTube chat line. We got the Godfather of the SEC. He's got 45-17 in favor of the Crimson Tide. Appreciate everybody giving us their thoughts there. Also, drop your offensive and defensive player of the game in there as well. So, just as you look at this matchup against Mississippi State, I mean, what are we trying to see in this game? Honestly, I mean, what are we trying to see in this matchup? Bulldogs 5-2. What are we trying to see in this matchup that would have you a bit feeling better after what you saw last week, and Jalen Hyatt scoring 5 touchdowns and breaking a Tennessee record, and Hendon Hooker having all day to throw, and 17 penalties, and a lot of mental mistakes out there. And of course, the players afterwards saying, we had, anxiety out there prior to the game. What do you want to see this week against Alabama, for Alabama against State, to have you feel a bit better than last week?
I think they have to make a statement. What have we heard all week from former Alabama players criticizing these set of Alabama players, these new age Alabama players. These guys are soft. We didn't do this when we were playing at Alabama. They've heard this all week, so I'm looking forward to this team putting up a dominant performance against Mississippi State because I feel they have to make a statement to show that they have heard all that. We've heard that we are soft. We are the worst Alabama defense under Nick Saban. We've heard all of these negative things about us throughout the week. I want them to use that, turn that into motivation to motivate themselves to say, hey, we can play up to the Bama standard against Mississippi State. After losing a game against Tennessee, you get an opportunity, a great opportunity to go up against the SEC's leading passer and show that, we can be better against a team who can pass the football really well and put up a dominant performance, get after the quarterback, looking at Will Anderson, looking at him to make an impact to show that, hey, I don't disappear in big games. I'm still who everybody said I was at the beginning of the season because looking at him, as an NFL prospect, he's already projected to be one of the top players in the NFL draft this upcoming NFL draft. But like we all know, NFL teams are looking for reasons not to pick you. And I think looking at Will Anderson, we talked about it, he disappears sometimes in big games. Of course, in the NFLs, he goes on to be a dominant guy and draws attention. It doesn't matter if you draw attention, we still want you to make plays because if you're going to find a way to make plays if you are a defensive playmaker. So, I'm looking forward to all of those guys using that energy, all the negativity that has been thrown their way in terms of it coming from fans, fans, former players, people calling them undisciplined. Look forward to them using that as motivation.
As we flip this now, Justin, to the offensive line and a group that's grown up since the Arkansas game. I mean, Arkansas played well. A&M had some good moments. Tennessee had some good moments. So, they blocked for Jahmyr Gibbs to have three, 100-yard games back to back to back. But now you're going to against a Mississippi State front that they're scrappy. They're scrappy, they're gritty, and they always been that way. When you look at Jet Jones, a big-time linebacker, Nathaniel Watson, a big-time linebacker. They got some guys on the defensive line that can get after the quarterback and create different stunts and pressures there too. One Bryce Young. I feel like since Seth McLaughlin has became the center, Alabama looks a lot stronger there at the point of attack. J.C. Latham has grown. Tyler Steen has had some good moments. You still wonder at times about Emil Ekiyor and Javion Cohen, but Tyler Booker has come in as a freshman at either guard spot, and he's played well. So where this offensive line is concerned, what do we need to see from this unit, especially after last week, Bryce getting hit sort of left and right there for the offensive line and Coach Eric Wolford? What's the big thing for this unit?
Just consistently continue to get better. I think on the ground they have had a lot of success. I feel it wasn't a horrible job by them in that Tennessee game. I felt Bryce Young had time. There were a couple times he had to hold on the football a little bit too long. I don't think you expect your offensive line to hold up for that amount of time. So I think they have shown consistent improvement. I think the biggest thing along the offensive line is discipline. I think that is something we talked about throughout this week. Limit those false starts, limit those delay of games in terms of the whole offense, specifically Bryce Young in terms of delay of games and making sure you are set. They seem to be getting better at communicating with one another pre-snap and having great communication in terms of their blocking assignment. But I think discipline is going to be very important for this Alabama team moving forward, and just specifically an offensive line. Of course, they're going to play in Bryant-Denny Stadium homecoming, so it's going to be a familiar environment this Saturday. But on the road, just doing the right things on the road, so hopefully they can translate over to doing the right things at home. Hopefully they can translate over to the road, just being disciplined when it comes to the offensive line.
Jarvis S. writing in, Justin, he feels like Bama will have a complete game on its hands for Saturday. Is this the complete game? Because people look back at Vanderbilt and they thought, hey, that was a strong game. That was a complete game. People look at the Arkansas matchup and they go, well, if you take away the 13 points at special team spot at Arkansas, that looked like a complete game. But against Mississippi State, where what they're going to want to do, they're going to want to throw it with Will Rogers 40 plus times. They'll test you with the run play every now and again. They'll test you with the run play every now and again. but they're going to want to run the football. They're going to want to throw the football 40 plus times in this matchup. So, Justin, is this where we see truly the complete game where we get the creativity on offense, we get the strong play on offense, but also we see the pass rush from Bama's defense. We see the run stopping from Bama's defense. We get turnovers forced by Alabama's defense. And then Alabama's special teams just being solid. Is this the complete game, in your opinion?
I don't think I will go out on a limb and say it will be a complete game for the Crimson Tide because I have to see it. I have to see what the game plan is. Maybe I can tell you that after the first couple of drives. I know the Crimson Tide wants to come out and make a statement. But what did I see the last time I saw them play against a team that could throw the football? They looked lost, specifically in the secondary. It was getting no pressure on Hendon Hooker. So yeah, I'm not sure what we will see this weekend on defensive side of football. That is why they have to come out and change the narrative because it looks as if they're going to struggle all year with teams who have explosive wide receivers who can get down on football field. Guys like Xavier Worthy on last game, of course, Jalen Hyatt, of course, going back to earlier in the season, Evan Stewart. So throughout the season, we've seen the Crimson Tide struggle with explosive wide receivers, but this is a great moment for them because you've gone up against a team, like you said, 6 out of the last 7 starts for Will Rogers. He has thrown the football more than 40 times. So he's going to throw the football. He's going to try to move the ball down the field through the air. So they have an opportunity to make that statement and clear up some things. I just feel this is a great opportunity for them to make a statement and have a complete game against a good team where we can say, yo, this was a good game, was a complete game. It's a game that we can really take into consideration because, like you said, the Vanderbilt game, going back to always the beginning of the season, the Utah State game, Alabama looked awesome. Of course, go back to the quality of opponent. You take a look at earlier in the season. So I think Mississippi State is a quality opponent.
Kind of lost Justin there. He's driving here to the Montgomery. I think we're trying to get Justin back here. He's driving to Montgomery to get the Pike Road versus Carver High School football game, and looking at Quay Rusaw and James Smith, two of the top commits here for the Crimson Tide, 2023 class, both 5 stars. It looks like we may have Justin back here. Justin, are you back with us?
Yeah, I'm back.
Go ahead and continue your point there.
Yeah. I'm not sure where I cut out at, but I was just saying Alabama has a perfect opportunity this weekend, in my opinion, to make a statement against a team with a quality offense, specifically on the defensive side of the football. We've talked about them having possibly a complete game early in the season when they went up against teams like Utah State and Vanderbilt. I think Mississippi State is a quality team on the offensive side of football, specifically for Alabama to come out and make a statement. If they do have a full game, we really can take that into consideration because Mississippi State is a pretty good opponent.
Before we wrap things up here, Justin, we got to remind the people of our great folks over there at Prize Picks who do an outstanding job in terms of fantasy football in a college sense and in the NFL sense, and what they do to provide a fun, entertaining atmosphere for college football fans, Alabama fans, just the entire mecca of things. So, Justin, what do our guys at Prize Picks have for us this week?
Yeah, Prize Picks is a daily fantasy app. You guys can download it wherever you get your apps. Of course, it's daily fantasy. You get an opportunity to make projections on sports throughout the world of sports. You get an opportunity to play daily fantasy with college football, college basketball, NFL, MLB, almost any sport you get an opportunity to play along with us here at the Bama Elite podcast. Use our promo code BAMA100. With that promo code, you get a 100% deposit match. So if you deposit $50, you're going to get that deposit match with a $50 deposit. So you get an opportunity to play along with us. Of course, play along with Alabama football. A lot of times they have projections about Alabama players. For example, we have a projection where it says Bryce Young goes for 165 yards. If you feel like he's going to throw for more than 150 yards, you go and say, yo, I think Young's going to throw for more than 150. If you think he's going to have more of a subpar game, so he's going to throw less than 150 yards, throw for less than 150 passing yards. So be sure to download that Prize Picks app. Picks can be even made in less than 60 seconds. Again, using that promo code BAMA100, you get that 100% deposit match.
You heard it right there, folks. Bama 100. Use the code. Be a part of the outstanding thing that is Prize Picks. Get that fun on in terms of fantasy sports, fantasy football, where that is concerned. But to wrap this thing up here, Justin, Bama, Mississippi State. I know you don't like predictions. I'm starting to not like them either, but it's part of our job. We got to do it here. So, Justin, prediction for this game and your offensive and defensive player of the game as you're heading to cover 2 5 stars here.
Yeah, my prediction for this matchup, yeah, I think, yeah, like you said, I truly don't like predictions. A lot of times I usually like to go with the first thing that came to my mind. So I told Alabama would have came up with a game plan last week to put pressure on Hendon Hooker. I think I only predicted Tennessee did come over with like 17 points. My prediction definitely did not come true. I felt like my prediction was in trouble before the game kicked off because I talked to a lot of recruits. All of them had like that same high scoring game, shootout type of game. But with this matchup, I've seen Mississippi State struggle a lot with teams that have gotten pressure on Will Rogers, specifically LSU. I think the Crimson Tide will get back to allowing their two best pass rushers in Will Anderson and Dallas Turner, let them get after Mississippi State's quarterback here in this matchup. So my score prediction, I think I'm going with about 42-24. That is the score prediction. I think this where I see this game going. I think Alabama's offense is going to be able to put up some points, even if it has to be despite Bill O'Brien. I think Bryce Young is just that good. I don't think Mississippi State's offense is going to be able to contain him. I think Alabama's secondary can figure out some things if Will Anderson helps them out, and Dallas Turner does too, by getting some pressure on the quarterback, and hopefully the Crimson Tide's defense can grow. So I'm thinking 42-24.
Justin's got 42-24 in favor of the Crimson Tide. I got 42-17. We're gonna go 42-17 in favor of Bama. I mean, I think the defense. I think the defense has heard enough about how soft it is. I think the defense steps up here. I think offensively there will be some creativity, but I think also Jahmyr Gibbs game on the ground. Keep your eyes on that guy right there. So defensive player of the game. Last year, this time, Will Anderson turned it all the way up. So I'm going with Will Anderson. He's got to make this statement. He's on the leadership council. He's the big man in the room. Will Anderson has got to make the statement. So that'd be my defensive player, of the game. My offensive player of the game. I'm going to go Jahmyr Gibbs here. I think he's going to run the football, have a huge matchup. I think he's going to redeem himself from the dropped pass he had last week against Tennessee and have a big day, catching the ball out of the backfield as well. So we're going to go with Will Anderson and Jahmyr Gibbs here on my end, Justin.
Yeah, I didn't get an opportunity. I didn't throw my players of the game out there. I think on the offensive side of football, I'm going to go with Bryce Young. I think he's going to have another big performance. On the defensive side of the football, I'm going to go with the guy who has been playing really good. He seems to be deterring offenses from throwing the football his way. And I'm talking about Kool-Aid McKinstry, who just continues to grow every week. I think he has an opportunity to return a punt this week. I think he'll make a big play in a punt return game and make some great plays on the defensive side of football. Plus, the one bright spot in Alabama's defense on last weekend. So I'm going with Kool-Aid McKinstry for my defensive player of the game. On the offensive side of football, I'm going with Bryce Young.
Absolutely. Well, folks, this is the Bama Elite Podcast Touchdown, Alabama Magazine, coming to you every Thursday and Sunday. Today, breaking down Bama, Mississippi State for this homecoming matchup at Bryant-Denny Stadium on Saturday, 6 p.m. Central Time kickoff. ESPN, I think either ESPN or SEC Network will have the call, but I want to say it would be ESPN having the call there on the matchup. For Justin Smith, who is traveling to the Carver High School versus Pike Road High School game in Montgomery to watch Quay Russaw and James Smith. I'm yours truly, Stephen M. Smith. Have a great night, folks. We'll see you back Sunday for the recap. This has been the Bama Elite.